The wind howled like it wanted to tear the roof off the house. I was standing over the stove in our little kitchen in Millbrook, Colorado, stirring spaghetti sauce while the snow piled up against the windows. It was one of those nights where the whole town seemed to disappear under a white blanket, and the only sounds were the crackle of the fireplace and Benny humming some tune he'd picked up from school. My 7-year-old was perched on a stool at the counter coloring a picture of a rocket ship with crayons that had seen better days. Rex, our retired K9, lay sprawled in front of the fridge, his golden fur catching the glow from the overhead light. He'd been with us for 2 years now, ever since I pulled him from the shelter after my last tour. Quiet dog, loyal, but tonight something had him restless. I tasted the sauce, added a pinch more salt, and glanced at the clock. 6:30. The storm had knocked out the cell towers an hour ago, and the radio was nothing but static. Typical Millbrook winter. We were used to it. I'd grown up here, left for the Marines, came back with scars and a son, and settled into a life that was simple but mine. The garage where I worked as a mechanic was closed for the night, and all I wanted was a hot meal and maybe a beer before Benny's bedtime. Rex's ears twitched. He lifted his head, nostrils flaring. I frowned. He wasn't the type to spook easy, not after everything he'd seen on the job with his old handler. I set the spoon down and wiped my hands on a dish towel. "What's up, boy?" I asked. He didn't answer, of course, just stared at the back door, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Benny looked up from his drawing. "Daddy, Rex is mad." "He's not mad, bud. Probably just heard a squirrel or something." But I knew better. Rex didn't growl at squirrels. I crossed the room and crouched beside him, running a hand over his back. His muscles were tense, his eyes locked on the door like he could see straight through it. Another growl, deeper this time. Then he was up, claws scraping hardwood as he bolted for the door. "Rex!" I shouted. He didn't stop. The dog door flapped open, and he was gone, swallowed by the blizzard. I cursed under my breath and grabbed my coat from the hook. Benny's eyes went wide. Like, "Daddy, where's he going?" "Stay right there, Benny. Lock the door behind me. Do not open it for anyone but me, you hear?" He nodded, clutching his crayon like a weapon. I pulled on my boots, yanked the hood over my head, and stepped into the storm. The cold hit like a slap. Snow stung my face, and the wind nearly knocked me off the porch. Visibility was maybe 10 feet. I called for Rex, my voice swallowed by the howl. Tracks led from the back steps toward the woods behind the house, already filling with fresh powder. I followed them, flashlight cutting a weak beam through the whiteout. My heart was pounding harder than it should have. Rex didn't run off. Not ever. The trail curved past the shed, down the slope toward the old bridge that crossed the frozen creek. The one the town never bothered to fix after last year's flood. I'd been meaning to warn Benny to stay away from it, but kids forget. Dogs apparently don't. I heard him before I saw him, barking, frantic, echoing off the ice. I pushed through the trees, boots crunching, and then the beam of my flashlight caught the scene. The bridge was half collapsed, one side sagging into the ravine. A black SUV was wedged against the guardrail, front end crumpled, steam hissing from the hood. Flames licked at the engine, small but growing. And there, sprawled in the snow just beyond the wreck, was a woman. Rex stood over her, barking like his life depended on it. His fur was matted with ice, but he didn't budge. I ran, slipping on the slick bridge, and dropped to my knees beside her. She was alive. Barely. Blood soaked the front of her jacket, dark blue, official-looking. A badge glinted on her chest. Millbrook PD. Her face was pale, lips blue, one arm bent at a wrong angle. Snow had already started to cover her boots. Hey, can you hear me?" I shouted over the wind. Her eyes fluttered. A weak sound escaped her throat. I didn't think, just acted. I slid my arms under her, lifting her as gently as I could. She was heavier than she looked, but adrenaline made up for it. Rex stayed close, growling at the flames like they were the enemy. The walk back was a nightmare. The wind pushed against us, snow filling my tracks almost as fast as I made them. She was limp in my arms, her breath shallow against my neck. I didn't know if she'd make it, but I wasn't leaving her out there. By the time I kicked open the back door, my arms were screaming. Benny was waiting, eyes huge, the phone clutched in his little hands. "Daddy, get the first aid kit, under the sink, now!" He ran. I laid her on the couch, peeling off her soaked jacket. The badge read J. Hayes. Blood had frozen to her shirt. I grabbed towels, pressed them to the worst of the wounds. Her pulse was there, faint but steady. Rex paced, whining, refusing to leave her side. Benny came back with the kit, trembling. "Is she gonna die?" "Not if I can help it," I said. I cleaned the gashes as best I could, one on her forehead, another across her ribs. Possible broken arm, concussion, maybe internal bleeding. The storm had cut us off from everything. No ambulance, no hospital, just me, a dog, and a kid who shouldn't have to see this. I wrapped her in blankets, started a fire, and prayed the generator held. Rex curled up at her feet, head on his paws, watching her like she was the only thing that mattered. Hours passed. The sauce burned. The spaghetti went cold. Benny fell asleep in the armchair, crayon still in hand. I sat on the floor beside the couch, checking her pulse every few minutes. Her breathing evened out. The bleeding slowed. And then just before dawn, her eyes opened. They were green, sharp, confused. She tried to sit up, winced, and looked straight at Rex. "Rocket?" she whispered. The dog's tail thumped once, hard. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a car accident, and we weren't done with the storm yet. Her eyes stayed on Rex for a long second, then shifted to me, then to the room. The fire had settled into a steady glow, throwing long shadows across the log walls. Snow tapped the windows like it was trying to get in. Benny was still out in the armchair, one foot dangling, crayon on the floor. I hadn't moved from my spot beside the couch since I'd carried her in. "You're safe," I said. My voice came out rougher than I meant. "Storm's still bad. No one's getting through tonight." She tried to push up on her good elbow, grimaced, and let her head fall back to the pillow I'd wedged under her neck. "Where am I?" "Millbrook, my place. Name's Carter Walker. This is my son, Benny. That's Rex." I nodded at the dog. "He found you." Her gaze flicked to Rex again. Something soft passed over her face, gone as fast as it came. "Rocket," she said under her breath like a reflex. Rex's ears perked. He scooted closer, rested his chin on the edge of the couch. She lifted her uninjured hand, slow, and let him sniff her fingers. When he licked them, she closed her eyes for a beat. "You know him," I said. Not a question she didn't answer right away. Instead, she took inventory. The bandages I'd wrapped around her ribs, the splint on her left forearm, the ice pack balanced on her forehead. Her jacket, torn, blood-stained, was folded on the coffee table. The badge sat on top like evidence. "Joanna Hayes," she said finally. "Undercover. Was." Her voice was low, steady, but I caught the tremor underneath. "Heading home, took a wrong turn in the storm." I didn't buy the wrong turn part, not with the way her SUV had been run off the road. But I'd been in enough firefights to know when someone needed space before they'd talk. "You hungry?" I asked. She shook her head. "Water?" I got up, filled a glass from the tap, and brought it back. She drank half, handed it back, then studied me like she was deciding whether I was friend or threat. I let her look. I'd been looked at worse. Benny stirred, rubbed his eyes, and slid off the chair. "Daddy, is the lady okay?" "She's awake," I told him. "Go grab the extra blanket from the hall closet." He padded off, bare feet slapping the wood. Joanna watched him go, something unreadable in her expression. "He's a good kid," she said. "He's nosy," I said. "But yeah." Benny came back with the blanket, a faded Denver Broncos throw his mom had left behind years ago. He draped it over Joanna's legs like he'd been doing this his whole life. "Thank you, Benny," she said. Her voice cracked on his name. He beamed. "Rex saved you. He's a hero." Rex thumped his tail again. I sent Benny to the kitchen to pour some orange juice, mostly to give him something to do. When he was out of earshot, I crouched beside the couch. "You're hurt worse than you're letting on," I said quietly. "Ribs might be cracked. Arm's definitely broken. You need a hospital." "Can't." She didn't look at me. "Not yet. Because of who's looking for you." Her silence was answer enough. I stood up. "I'm not the police. I'm not asking, but you're not walking out of here till the storm breaks and you can stand without passing out. That's the deal." She met my eyes then. Green, sharp, tired. Fair. Benny came back with the juice, offered it to her like a peace treaty. She took it, sipped, and managed a small smile. "Tell me a story," Benny said, climbing onto the ottoman. "About dogs." Joanna glanced at me. I shrugged. She set the glass down. "Once," she started, voice softer than before, "there was a dog named Rocket who could find anything. Lost kids, bad guys, even a little girl's teddy bear in a snowbank." Benny leaned in. Rex laid his head on Joanna's blanket-covered knee. I stayed by the fire, pretending to poke the logs while I listened. She told the story slow, leaving out the parts that would scare a 7-year-old. But I heard the truth underneath. The raids, the nights in the field, the handler who never came home. Her voice cracked once, just once, when she said the handler's name. Trevor. Rex whined, low and mournful. When the story ended, Benny was half asleep against the armrest. Joanna's eyes were closed, but I could tell she wasn't sleeping. I lifted Benny, carried him to his room, tucked him in. Rex followed, circled twice, and settled by the boy's bed like a sentinel. Back in the living room, the fire had died to embers. Joanna was staring at the ceiling. "He never forgot you," I said. She didn't pretend not to understand. "I never forgot him either." I added a log, watched the flames catch. "You can sleep. I'll take the chair." She turned her head. "You don't have to play guard dog, Carter." "Old habits." She almost smiled. Almost. I pulled the armchair closer, sat with my back to the wall, shotgun across my lap. Not because I thought anyone would come through the door tonight. The storm was too thick. But because some instincts don't retire. Joanna's breathing evened out. Rex padded in, circled the couch once, and lay down with his head on her boots, guarding her the way he used to guard his partner. Outside, the wind kept screaming. Inside, the house felt smaller, warmer, and a hell of a lot more complicated than it had 12 hours ago. I did not sleep. I watched the fire, listened to the storm, and wondered what kind of trouble I just carried over my threshold. Whatever it wasn't leaving without a fight. The next morning, the storm had eased to a steady, silent fall. Snow pressed against the windows like cotton, turning the world outside into a white hush. I was up before dawn, coffee brewing, bacon sizzling. Benny bounded in first, hair wild, eyes bright. "Is the lady still here?" he whispered, like she might vanish if he spoke too loud. "She's here," I said, "and she's hurt. Quiet feet." He nodded solemnly and tiptoed to the couch. Joanna was awake, propped on pillows, the blanket tucked under her chin. Her color was better, but the bruise along her cheek had bloomed purple overnight. Rex hadn't moved from his post at her feet. "Morning," she said to Benny. Her voice was hoarse but steady. "Morning." He held out a drawing he'd done before bed. Stick figure me, him, Rex, and a lady with yellow hair. "It's us." Joanna took it carefully with her good hand. "This is beautiful, Benny. Thank you." I set a plate of eggs and toast on the coffee table, kept my voice low. "Eat what you can. Painkillers in the cupboard if you need them." She nodded, picked at the food. I noticed the way she held the fork, left-handed, deliberate, like someone used to eating one-handed in a vest. Military, or cop. I'd seen it before. Benny climbed onto the ottoman again. "Can Rex have bacon?" "One piece," I said. He's on a diet." Rex took the strip gently, then returned to Joanna's side. She scratched behind his ears, and he leaned into it like he'd been waiting years for that exact touch. "You called him Rocket last night," I said, pouring coffee into a mug. "That's not his shelter name." Joanna's fingers stilled. "No, it's not." I handed her the mug. She wrapped both hands around it, wincing when the splint shifted. "His handler gave him that name," she said. "Trevor Hayes. My husband." The room went quiet except for the tick of the wall clock. Benny looked between us, sensing the shift, and busied himself with his crayons. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Trevor Hayes, K-9 unit, Denver PD. Died in the line 2 years back. Car bomb, they said." Her jaw tightened. "That's the official story." I waited. She sipped the coffee, set the mug down. Rex Rocket was his partner, best tracker in the division. They were on a raid. Something went wrong. Trevor didn't make it out. Rex vanished the same night. I thought he was dead too. She looked at the dog. I looked for him. Every shelter, every pound, nothing. Until now. Rex whined, nudged her hand. She scratched again, slower. I left the job after that, she said. Couldn't wear the badge anymore, not after what I found. I didn't push. Not yet. But I saw the way her eyes flicked to the jacket on the table, to the bulge in the inside pocket where something small and hard sat. USB drive. I'd felt it when I'd peeled the jacket off her. Benny tugged my sleeve. Daddy, can we keep her? Joanna's lips twitched. I'm not a stray, buddy. But Rex likes you. He always did, she said softly. I sent Benny to get dressed for the day. School was canceled, but routine kept him grounded. When he was gone, I sat on the edge of the ottoman. You're not just passing through, I said. That wreck wasn't an accident. She met my eyes. No. And whoever did it knows you're alive. She didn't answer, didn't need to. I stood, went to the window. The snow had stopped, but the roads were buried. No plows for hours. We were cut off. Your arm needs a real doctor, I said. Jamais, ribs too. I can splint better, but I've had worse. I believe it. She shifted, winced. Carter, I don't want to bring this to your door. Too late. Rex growled low, ears flat. Not at us. At the window. I moved fast, pulled the curtain aside an inch, nothing but white. But Rex didn't growl at nothing. Stay here, I told her. I grabbed the shotgun from the rack, checked the load. Benny's door was closed. Good. I stepped onto the porch, boots crunching. The cold bit hard. Tracks, fresh ones, led from the tree line to the side of the house, then away. Boot prints, 2 sets. They'd been close enough to see in the windows. I followed them to the shed, found the side window cracked open. Inside, tools scattered. Someone had been looking for something. Or someone. I went back in, locked the door, slid the deadbolt. Joanna was sitting up now, blanket pulled around her waist. Her good hand rested on the grip of a Glock she'd pulled from her boot. I hadn't even seen it there. They're already here, she said. Not in the house. Yet. Rex stood between us and the door, hackles raised. I looked at her, really looked. The way she held the gun, the way she scanned the room, the way she didn't flinch. You're not just a cop, I said. No, she said. I'm the one who was supposed to die last night. I nodded once. Then we're going to need more than bacon and stories. She almost smiled. Almost. Outside, the wind picked up again, rattling the windows like a warning. The second night was quieter than the first, but the silence felt loaded. I dragged the kitchen table against the back door and wedged a chair under the front knob. Every creak of the old house sounded like footsteps. Benny slept in my room with Rex curled across the doorway. Joanna took the couch again, Glock on the coffee table within reach. I sat in the armchair with the shotgun across my knees, eyes on the windows. At 2:17 a.m., Rex growled, not loud, just enough to snap me awake. I was already moving when the first shadow crossed the porch light. 2 figures, black jackets, hoods up. They moved like they'd done this before. One carried a slim Jim. The other had a suppressed pistol. I signaled Joanna with 2 fingers. She was up, silent, gun in hand. We'd gone over the plan in whispers after Benny crashed. If they came in, I'd take the front, she'd cover the hall. Rex would do what Rex did. The lock clicked, the chair scraped, the door eased open an inch. Rex launched. No bark, no warning, just 70 pounds of muscle and teeth hitting the first guy in the chest. The intruder went down hard, air leaving his lungs in a whoosh. The second swung the pistol, but I was already there, shotgun butt to the temple. He dropped like a sack. Joanna stepped over the bodies, kicked the guns away, zip-tied their wrists with the ties I'd left on the counter. Her movements were smooth, practiced. Cop muscle memory. Clear, she said. I dragged them inside, shut the door, and flipped on the light. 2 men, mid-30s, faces I didn't know. One had a sheriff's department tattoo on his neck. Millbrook PD. Friends of yours? I asked. Not friends. She knelt, pulled a phone from the first guy's pocket, cracked the screen, scrolled. Burner, 1 outgoing call, same number twice. She held it up. The contact read A.R. Alan Rodriguez, she said. Sheriff. I stared at the tattoo. Your boss. Was. Rex sat between us and the tied men, teeth bared. The one I'd clocked was starting to stir. Joanna stood, wincing as her ribs protested. They'll send more. How many more? Enough. I looked at the USB drive I'd pulled from her jacket earlier. Small. Black. No label. This what they want? She nodded. Everything. Audio, video, bank records, 2 years of undercover work. Trevor died getting me the last piece. I turned the drive over in my fingers. Then we keep it safe, and we keep you safe. She started to argue, but I cut her off. My house, my rules, you're not dying on my couch. The conscious guy spat blood. You're dead, Walker, both of you. I pressed the shotgun barrel under his chin. Talk, he smirked. Sheriff's got the whole county. You think the FBI's gonna ride in on white horses? They'll bury you with the dog. Joanna crouched, voice ice. Where's the next team? He laughed. Already on the way. Rex growled louder. I looked at Joanna. Basement. She didn't argue. We dragged the two down the stairs, locked them in the old coal room. I rigged the door with a padlock and a chair. It wouldn't hold forever, but it would slow them. Upstairs, I grabbed Benny's go bag. Clothes, water, flashlight. Joanna packed her own. The USB in a waterproof pouch, her Glock, extra mags. I loaded the shotgun, slipped my old service pistol into my waistband. Plan? She asked. Forest. Half-mile to the old ranger cabin. Storms covering our tracks. Rex knows the way. She nodded. Benny? Carries his own pack. He's done it on hikes. I woke him gently. Buddy, we're going on an adventure. Quiet feet, okay? He rubbed his eyes, saw the guns, and nodded. No questions. Kids, adapt. We slipped out the back, Rex leading. Snow was knee-deep, wind cutting. Joanna leaned on me when her ribs screamed. Benny held my hand. The forest swallowed us within minutes. Behind us, headlights cut through the white. 2 trucks, moving slow. They'd found the house empty. Good. We had a head start, but not much. The forest was a maze of white and shadow. Snow muffled every sound except our breathing and the crunch of boots. Rex moved ahead like a ghost, nose to the ground, ears swiveling. I carried Benny on my back when his legs gave out. Joanna kept pace despite the pain, Glock in her good hand. The ranger cabin was our only shot, a half-collapsed shelter I'd used for hunting, stocked with a few supplies and a satellite phone that might still work. We'd been moving 20 minutes when Rex froze. A low growl vibrated through his chest. I set Benny down behind a fallen pine, motioned Joanna to cover. Headlights flickered between the trees, 2 sets, closing fast. Trucks, I whispered. They're tracking the dog prints. Joanna's face was pale but set. How many? 6, maybe more. She checked her mag. I've got 12 rounds. You? Shotguns 8, pistols 15, not enough. Rex's hackles rose. He looked back at the cabin, then at us. I knew that look. Decision time. Basement plan B, I said. We'd talked about it in whispers while barricading the house. If they cornered us, we'd use the terrain. The creek bed ran behind the cabin, frozen solid but narrow. One way in, one way out. Perfect choke point. I sent Benny ahead with Rex. Follow the dog. Don't stop. Cabin's got a trapdoor under the rug. Hide there. Lock it. He nodded, eyes wide but steady. I love you, Daddy. Love you too, bud. Go. They vanished into the white. Joanna and I took position behind a cluster of boulders overlooking the creek. The truck stopped 50 yards out. Doors opened, 3 men in tactical gear, rifles up. Sheriff's decals on the vests. Walker! A voice boomed. Alan Rodriguez himself, megaphone in hand. Send out the bitch and the drive. We'll let the kid walk. Joanna's jaw clenched. He's lying. Obviously. I racked the shotgun. Plan? Draw them in. Rex circles back. We take the high ground. I nodded. She was thinking 3 moves ahead. Cop brain. The first man stepped onto the ice. Rex exploded from the tree line behind them, silent, teeth flashing. He hit the lead guy in the calf. Scream, rifle clatter, chaos. Joanna fired twice. Center mass on the second man. He dropped. I pumped the shotgun, took out the third's knee. He went down howling. Alan cursed, ducked behind the truck. Light it up! Muzzle flashes lit the snow. Bullets chipped rock above our heads. I grabbed Joanna's arm, pulled her down the slope toward the creek. Ice cracked under our weight but held. Rex herded the wounded toward the cabin, barking to keep them off balance. We slid into the narrow ravine, using the banks for cover. My ears rang. Joanna's sleeve was dark. New blood. Ribs? I asked. Grazed. Keep moving. We reached the cabin. Benny's tracks led inside. I kicked the door. Locked from within. Good boy. Benny, it's Dad! The trapdoor creaked open. Rex bounded down first, tail wagging. Benny's face appeared, tear-streaked, but alive. 3 left, I said. Alan's got the sat phone jammer. No signal. Joanna leaned against the wall, breathing hard. USB's in the pouch. If we don't make it, we will. Headlights swept the clearing. Engines revved. They were coming. I barred the door with a beam, shoved the table against it. Joanna reloaded, handed me her spare mag. Benny clutched Rex's collar. Under the floor, I told him. Now! He crawled in. Rex followed, growling low. Joanna and I took positions at the windows. Glass shattered. Bullets tore through wood. I returned fire. Boom, boom! Shotgun barking. One truck's tire exploded. They swerved. Alan's voice again, closer. Last chance, Walker! I looked at Joanna. She met my eyes, nodded once. On 3, I said. We rush the ravine. Rex covers. 1, she whispered. 2. The door splintered. Alan stepped through, rifle raised. Rex launched from the trapdoor like a missile, jaws clamping Alan's forearm. The rifle clattered. Joanna fired, center mass. Alan staggered, eyes wide, then collapsed. The last man outside panicked, sprayed the cabin. I leaned out, shotgun roared. He dropped. Silence. Snow fell soft and heavy. Smoke curled from the barrel. Joanna sank to her knees, blood pooling under her. I caught her before she hit the floor. Stay with me. She smiled, faint. Rocket. Good boy. Rex whined, licked her face. Benny crawled out, sobbing. I pressed a shirt to her wound, dialed 911 on the sat phone. Jammer was down with Alan. Officer down! I barked. Millbrook, Ranger cabin, send everyone. Sirens in the distance. Finally. I held her hand. Benny held Rex. The dog lay across her legs, guarding to the end. She was breathing when they loaded her onto the stretcher. Rex refused to leave her side, so they let him ride in the ambulance. I carried Benny to the truck, USB in my pocket. The storm had broken, but the fight was just starting. The hospital in Denver smelled like bleach and bad coffee. Joanna came out of surgery at dawn, ribs pinned, shoulder reconstructed, concussion monitored. They kept her sedated for 2 days. I slept in the plastic chair beside her bed. Benny curled on the rollaway cot the nurses snuck in. Rex lay under the bed, head on his paws, refusing food until she woke. On the 3rd morning, her eyes opened, green, clear, alive. Hey, Rocket, she whispered. The dog's tail thumped the floor like a drum. Benny launched onto the bed. You're awake! Easy, bud, I said, but I was smiling. She looked at me. Alan? Dead. The other 2 are talking. FBI took the drive. She closed her eyes, exhaled. Trevor? They're reopening his case. Bomb wasn't an accident, tied to the same ring. She nodded. No tears, just relief. The agents came that afternoon. 2 suits from the Denver field office. They took my statement, Benny's, even asked Rex to sit for a photo. The USB had everything. Wire transfers, surveillance footage, Alan's voice on a recorded call ordering the hit on Joanna. Enough to dismantle the network from Millbrook to the border. I gave them the shortened version. Left out the part where I almost put a round in Alan's head myself. A week later, they held a press conference. Joanna sat in a wheelchair, badge pinned to her gown, Rex at her feet with a new service vest that read Hero. The governor pinned a medal on the dog. Benny clapped until his hands were red. Joanna refused the offer to return to active duty. Been undercover too long, she told the captain. Time to live in the light. They offered me a consultant gig, emergency response training for rural departments. I took it. The pay was better, the hours flexible, and it kept me close to home. We moved back to Millbrook when the roads cleared. The house smelled like pine cleaner and new paint. The bullet holes were patched, the blood scrubbed from the floorboards. Benny insisted on keeping the trapdoor for adventures. I let him. Joanna took the spare room. Said it was temporary. 3 weeks in, her duffel was still unpacked in the corner. One night I found her in the kitchen staring at the fridge. Benny's drawing was taped front and center. Me, him, Rex, and her under a yellow sun. "You kept it," she said. "Kid's proud." She touched the crayon lines. "I never had a fridge growing up." I poured 2 mugs of cocoa, handed her one. "You do now." She didn't argue. The FBI sent Rex's medal in a velvet box. Benny hung it above the fireplace next to my old service ribbon. Joanna polished it every Sunday. Spring came early. The snow melted into the creek and the forest turned green. I built a ramp off the back porch so Rex could sun himself without jumping. Joanna helped, measuring boards with her good arm, laughing when I hit my thumb. One Saturday, the suits came back. Promotion offer for her, desk job, training rookies. She turned it down flat. "I've got a better gig," she said, nodding at Benny chasing Rex through the yard. That night, after Benny crashed, she found me on the porch. "Carter." "Yeah?" "I'm not leaving." I looked at her, moonlight on her face, scars fading, eyes steady. "Good," I said, "because the spare room's yours and the couch is lumpy." She laughed. Real, unguarded. First time I'd heard it. Rex patted out, dropped a tennis ball at her feet. She threw it. He brought it back. Over and over. We didn't talk about love, didn't need to. Some things you build one day, one choice, one thrown ball at a time. The first snow of the new winter fell soft and slow, like it was apologizing for last year. I stood at the kitchen window watching the flakes drift past the porch light. Inside, the house smelled of cinnamon and pine. Joanna's doing. She'd insisted on a real tree this year, said Benny needed the tradition. The kid was on the living room floor, stringing popcorn with the focus of a bomb tech, tongue poking out the side of his mouth. Rex lay sprawled in front of the fireplace, his metal catching the glow. The ramp I'd built for him last spring had a fresh coat of paint, Joanna's choice, a ridiculous bright blue that made Benny cheer. The dog's muzzle was grayer now, but his eyes still tracked every movement in the room like it was his job. Joanna came in from the hall, arms full of blankets. She'd cut her hair shorter, just brushing her shoulders, and the scars on her arm had faded to thin silver lines. She dropped the pile on the couch and caught me watching. "What?" she asked, arching a brow. "Nothing. Just thinking the place looks good." She glanced around. The patched walls, the new rug covering the spot where Alan had bled out, the fridge plastered with Benny's drawings. "It's home," she said simply. Benny looked up. "Cocoa time?" "On it," I said. I poured 3 mugs, added extra marshmallows for the kid. Joanna took hers black, same as me. We settled on the couch, Benny wedged between us, Rex's head heavy on Joanna's knee. The fire crackled. Outside, the snow piled higher, but inside, it was warm enough to forget the cold. Benny opened his book, a dog-eared copy of Where the Red Fern Grows he'd found at the library. "Chapter 7, he announced. "I'm reading tonight." Joanna tucked a blanket around his shoulders. "Go for it, Captain," he started, voice clear and proud, stumbling only on the big words. Joanna corrected gently, her hand on his back. I leaned into the cushions, letting the sound wash over me. Rex's tail thumped once, twice, then settled. Halfway through the chapter, Benny yawned. "Can Rex sleep in my room tonight?" Joanna scratched the dog's ears. "He's on guard duty, but you can have him tomorrow." Benny nodded, satisfied, and kept reading. When he finished the page, he closed the book and looked up at us. "Are we a family now?" he asked, matter of fact. Joanna and I exchanged a glance. No rehearsed answer, no big speech. "Yeah, bud," I said. "We are." He grinned, leaned into Joanna. She kissed the top of his head, then reached across him to squeeze my hand. Her fingers were warm, calloused from helping at the garage, from chopping wood, from rebuilding what the storm had tried to take. Later, after Benny was tucked in and Rex had circled his bed twice before flopping down with a sigh, Joanna and I stood on the porch. The snow had stopped. The world was white and still, the kind of quiet that only comes after a fight. She leaned against the railing. "A year ago, I was running for my life. And now? Now I'm fixing the porch light so Benny doesn't trip." She smiled, small but real. "Funny how that works." I stepped closer, wrapped an arm around her waist. She fit there like she'd always belonged. "No fireworks," I said. No grand gestures. Just us, she finished. Rex's bark echoed from inside, sharp, once. We turned. Benny's bedroom light flicked on. Probably a nightmare. Joanna started for the door, but I caught her hand. I got it, I said. She nodded, stayed on the porch, breath fogging in the cold. I found Benny sitting up, eyes wide. Rex was already on the bed, nose to the boy's cheek. Bad dream? I asked. He nodded. The bad men came back. They're gone, I said. Rex made sure of it, and so did we. He looked at the dog, then at me. Promise? Promise. I tucked him in again, left the hall light on. Rex stayed. Guard duty never ended. Back outside, Joanna hadn't moved. Snow dusted her hair like sugar. He okay? She asked. Will be. She turned to me, eyes soft in the porch light. We all will. I pulled her close. She rested her head on my chest, right over the scar from a bullet I'd taken in Kandahar. Her hand found mine, fingers lacing tight. Inside, the fire settled into embers. The house creaked, old bones holding strong. Somewhere in the dark, Rex's tail thumped once. Steady, sure. We weren't perfect. We'd never be the family on a Christmas card, but we were Hirshite. We'd chosen this. Every patched wall, every scar, every quiet night. The snow kept falling, covering the tracks of the past. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't look back.